All right. You should see a recording sign now too, John. It should tell you you're being recorded.
Very good.
Good. All right, John. Well, good to finally meet you semi in person, John.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well, finally. Been more than a few years.
Yeah, it's been a decade plus now. Appreciate all the work you guys did on the Joust machines and all the other machines you've been involved with. So from a Joust standpoint, you worked on Joust, but what other things were you involved with for Williams?
Well, did plenty of pinball games and did a lot of sounds for them for Joust and for let's see, Black Knight, did the sounds and speech also. Coded up a handful of games, pins, Pharaoh, a couple others. Did a pinball game with Mark Ritchie called Thunderball. I was co-designer of that. And
Thunderball, oh yeah, nice.
Yep. And so that was an attempt to make a pinball game play by video rules, basically, where you had waves and it wasn't just a 3-ball kind of gameplay. It was, you'd have up to 6 balls on the play field at once and do all sorts of things. It's too expensive to manufacture the way we did it, and by the time they watered it down, it wasn't as much fun to make it. And of course, this is an industry, it's a business, and you have to balance the cost of the game with the cost to the cost per play. And but I also worked on animation, Picasso animation software. Started that up with Python. Originally, the characters on the screen were literally drawn on graph paper and then coded in hex as arrays. And that got pretty tedious, and it's pretty hard to create animation with that. So Python cornered me and said, why don't you write something where we can just use the joystick, and the fire button will save a pixel wherever you got the joystick, and a couple other buttons there will help you pick your colors and so on. So got that, and then wrote the code that would upload that automatically into, we were running VAXs at the time, into a pre-coded format. So all you had to do was just import the file as an image. And then from there, we went to multi-frame animation. And Python was a big student of anatomy.
Yes.
So he was fine-tuning all the little movements of the software was originally used on Joust, and Python was coming up with some of the preliminary efforts for the different characters on Joust. And that was a lot of fun. That was 2, 3, 4 in the morning sessions for weeks on end to make stuff like that happen. And
I have some of his Joust drawings.
Well, he did the Joust poster at my place up in Wakanda.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he started it over there, and then he finished it. I have bunches of drawings. Python was best man at my wedding, godfather of my daughter, and he's the guy that dragged me up to Williams for the last 14 years of my career, working on the redemption games and so forth up there, the Dave and Buster Chuck E. Cheese type things between my biomed stuff. But
I've got the drawings on litho paper, and he signed one of them, and then there are other ones that are one that Constantine Mitchell did, and then the rest of them are all ones that he did. One of the big ones he signed for me, and John Newcomer gave 2 of those to me when I played the 100th machine at the Williams building.
Cool.
And then I have one of the first posters that came off Python and Futzenrieder and Newcomer, and I think Fidesna signed it also, which all that stuff is in my family room.
Very good.
I understand that Mike Stroll has the original charcoal of that poster.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he told me he does.
Well, and you never want to argue with Mike, you know.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and I haven't talked to him in person. It was message in the Williams group, but it's nice that it still exists.
Oh yeah. Well, it was a very creative time, and it was an honor to be working with people like Python and John Newcomer, Bill Futz, Connie Mitchell, Jan Hendricks, Tim Murphy. He did the sounds with me on a lot of games, and I think by far our greatest results were on Joust. Also did the game design with Python for Bubbles, which was a game that I was credited in designing, along with Dave Repka and a whole bunch of people. Some of them I'm still in contact with, and all of whom, when we do get together for a event of some sort or another, often through Eugene Jarvis, it's great to actually run into each other and tell old stories and have some serious laughs. Good memories. So that's pretty much what I did while I was there.
What did you think the most innovative things were on Joust?
Well, the play itself was spectacular. The control of the birds was unique, and anything that was done, the amount of physics, the gravity of flapping the wings, and controlling that drifting and so forth. Futz just did an outstanding job in creating a new sensation that no one ever really felt before. I mean, there was some of that floating feeling and so forth in Defender, which was obviously a great game. But there was just something unique about you're self-propelling. And I think the overall experience in Joust were the subtleties of the control of the game. So much of it was really under the player's control. Not only the flight of the bird itself, but the sounds. I've talked at different times about the bird flap sound, for example, was also under player control. And I doubt very few people ever knew that they were creating their own sounds every time they pushed and released the button. So things like that made for a unique experience. So the whole thematic package with the strong physics foundation created a new reality for the players to enjoy and to explore.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't like anything else I had seen up to that point.
And the choreography was spectacular. You know, the whole from the concept of the game to the development of the game, to things melting away, and it had a whole bunch of innovation within a huge generalized innovative package. So
on a very small memory scale too, to be able to do all that stuff was pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, the underlying technology between bank switching memories on an 8-bit processor and, you know, doing these sounds. Tim Murphy was a brilliant young fella studying at University of Chicago, and studying math. And he prided himself on math, and I threw out Walsh functions, for example, "Oh, I never heard of Walsh functions." And I go, "Well, they're like Fourier functions, only using square waves instead of sine waves." He goes, "I would have heard of that by now." So he came back the next day, and this was before the internet, and he goes, "Yeah, those look pretty cool and stuff." And so most of these sounds for Joust were done by Walsh functions, just generating square waves on top of square waves uh, to create a wave shape that was appropriate for the animation and for the choreography. And that included the two parts, as I've discussed with the sounds. There were two different sounds, both for the bird flap and the skid stop. And they were taken from the classics. The bird flap was from Hitchcock's The Birds, and I recorded that. I had a recording studio at home, and I recorded it at high speed and played it back at super slow speed on the oscilloscope to see what it looked like, and basically coded that up. And it had the slowing down part, and then the at the end, the tail part. And so based on your velocity and when you stopped or when you started up again, whichever way you were going, one part interrupted the tail interrupted the sound, the first part of the sound of the bird flap, and that made a unique sound every time you flopped, every time you flipped the fly button. And that had never been done before, to my knowledge, where there was that much synchronous control by the player of sounds. And same thing for the skid stop and the bird flap, where they were both two-part sounds that created a unique sound every time. It was never the same sound twice, and it was under player control.
So Python and I were talking one time, and I knew he was pulling my leg. And I'm hoping that you're going to tell me he was pulling my leg, because it so sounded like he was pulling my leg when he told me this. He goes, "Hey, you know the screeching sound?"
Yeah.
When, and this is him telling me that, the screeching sound when you stop the
tire
bird.
Yeah.
He goes, "You know what that's from?" He goes, "That's from me stopping my 1981 Firebird."
Well, it could be
true or not true. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Let's say that the sounds were similar, but I did not record them doing that for fear of my own life. I'd ridden in that car, and well, Python was definitely a European style driver, and I learned to drive in Europe also. So in fact, he says, "I didn't know." One time I was driving him to somewhere downtown from work, and it's like, and I was driving a stick, and I just decided that, he says, hurry, I got to get there. And I thought, well, okay, I'll drive fast.
Yeah.
And when we got there, he goes, "I didn't know you could drive like that. I thought I was the only fool that could drive like that." And I go, "No, there's, they're not as bad as the Venezuelans or the people from Boston, but Europeans do drive pretty crazy."
Oh, they do. When we were over in Rome, and just going around the fountain, you're like, you felt like you're going to hit everybody there. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, but actually that was taken from Roadrunner. So I did the same thing that I did with Hitchcock's The Birds. Was I recorded Roadrunner off of the TV cartoon, and at high speed, and then played it back at very low speed, and just so like the floop floop for the bird. This was the of the two-part sound of a compound sound that was under, and then Futz was the guy that really coded it so that that sound would interrupt, the second part of the sound would interrupt the first part of the sound, and make it different every time, link it to the actual screen event. So it was a lot of fun, and all in all, there was a lot of animation and a lot of choreography, a lot of stuff beneath the radar, so to speak, for the average player, that took hours and sometimes days or even weeks to fine tune to make it seem simple. And you got to credit the design team that kept working on it and kept refining it. And, you got to give Ken Fedesna his due, because there's always pressure to get the game out. But he tried to give him as much time as he could to make the game right. And it was right.
Yeah, it's very elegant, and it's held up so well over time. I was talking to Futzenreuter today. I mean, it's been ported into so many different systems, Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation. Now you have Killer Queen, which is basically Joust on steroids community. And they just had the national championship for Killer Queen in Dallas, Texas, where we're going to have our event in July. And the people who created Killer Queen are going to come and give homage to Joust, so that's I think well deserved.
Well, and best of luck with that event. I wish I could be there if prior family commitments take priority, but I'll be there in spirit. Whatever you can get out of this.
We may have you call in Friday night for dinner and say hi to everybody.
I'll be on the road, but sure.
Yeah, it's just
see if we can make it happen.
We'll do a phone call.
Yeah.
So let's see, we covered pop culture. Of course, now you also had Joust in Ready Player One too, which was interesting. It was in the book. Of course, in the movie, they cut it out because it's the first key was Joust. So not real true to it, but there was still a lot of homage to Joust. And
yeah, it was a great book too. It's fun to read, especially as a part of that whole genre and the instigators or whatever. That was a very cool book. And yeah, movies are another whole game, but it's an entertainment business, and you never know what's going to come out.
Yeah, which is gonna be more entertaining. Lonnie McDonald playing the Leech King, playing Joust against the guy, because I knew they were going to cast me for that. I mean, I just knew they had to, but it couldn't have been anybody else. So I knew they weren't doing it right because they didn't.
You were already kind of getting the fingers warmed up, I understand.
But driving backwards on a racing track was more entertaining, I'm sure, except for the purist. Well, what else do you want to say about Joust? We actually covered all those 2 pages of questions that I had.
There you go.
In a very short period of time, and then I've sent you your manifesto on Joust history,
which I
2013
saw but didn't look at because I I guess in the big wraparound, it was a game that was destined to be a classic, and the excitement around the game as it got closer and closer to getting out the door inside the offices of Williams, the development offices of Williams, confirmed that, and unlike the other great games that been done at Williams up to that point, the Vid kids, Eugene Jarvis and Larry DeMar, did a large amount of their development at their place, not in the offices of Williams. And every now and then they come in, and a few select people would get to see it. But this game was developed very much with a line out the door into the hallways of people wanting to see. And you could sense the excitement of the game just before it was ready to be tested. And
I just got goosebumps listening to you. That's good. That's good.
It was very cool.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And of course, it was an honor. And you knew that something great was bubbling, something above and beyond the hey, yeah, did you see this in the hallway kind of casual conversation. There was genuine, like you say, people were getting goosebumps watching it, and dark room, late night, in the hallway, and all this kind of stuff. The excitement was there before the hype.
Nice.
So the excitement created the hype, not the other way around.
26,000 plus Joust machines sold, and the 26,000 uprights. No, we're not counting Joust 2. 26,000 uprights, around 400 cocktails. And I've played 251 of those uprights. We assume
You got a ways to go, buddy.
yeah, well, they're not going to be 26,000 of them. We did what we thought was a semi-scientific study on how many we thought there might be left, and figured plus or minus around 4% at this point. And we still haven't found that many. I mean, there are a list of them, and we've got our registry, and then Killer List of Video Games has theirs, and then there's a couple other lists that we've looked at. We haven't found 1,000 of them yet, 40 years later. So but there were so many of them that were converted or destroyed in the 90s. And it's sad that such pieces of, I mean, even the machines, when I consider them pop culture, the Smithsonian did the whole thing on video game art. I mean,
right.
It's the stuff that they put on the side of the machines, Constantino Mitchell and Python and those guys doing the brilliant artwork, and made the machines just even better.
It's amazing how all that stuff evolved from simple silk screening to surprisingly, complex multicolor, 4-color processing, and getting those cabinets to look as sharp as they did compared to some of the early pinball games. It's amazing. And yeah, like you say, some of that artwork is still generating its own genre. When I retired, I don't know if you can see that in a corner there, but probably not. There's a little joust.
I don't. Oh yeah, I see it. I got the artwork. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
You got the poster.
This was a retirement thing from Baytech.
That's excellent.
So that was the way to the party, or to my retirement party. Yeah, which I thought was a very nice gesture by the guys at Baytech.
That's amazing.
And and there's a lot more. I mean, when you look at like that poster and that whole set of artwork, if you look at NCIS, you can see that in their lab, they've got something that looks an awful lot like the same poster. And there's little places of art, be it poster art or screen art or cabinet art, that is sprinkled around places you'd never necessarily recognize it, but if you line them all up next to each other, you could tell they were from the same family, from the same genre, same birthplace.
Such an interesting foundation it laid. I was thinking, I've played in every state, and I got a call. Oh, man, it must have been 5 years ago or so. Guy calls me like out of the blue, I think. And he goes, "Are you such and such?" And I went, "Yes, how can I help you?" And he goes, and then he tells me who he is and what he's doing and where he's from. And I'm like, and he has watched hundreds of hours of me playing Joust on video, and they have attempted to recreate Joust in South America. And they're playing it in their corporate offices against each other.
I believe
this is like 35 years later. They're trying to develop the game just by watching it play, and what flight dynamics you can do. And I'm like, well, I said, well, I can't give you an opinion on this one way or another. I said, because this has intellectual property concerns. I said, but I'm sure that people are happy that you like Joust.
Well, and you're not very different from them. I have to say, because both of you spent countless hours reverse engineering the game. You did it in your mind so that you knew what next, twist of the algorithm
it's worse
going to occur in this wave.
It's worse than that, John, because
I'm sure it is.
If you watch me play, I literally make the game do what I want it to do, because I know what it will do. And so you'll see things like the middle ledge, standing on the middle ledge, I'll pop my head up and I'll make the Shadow Lord run to me where I want him to run to me so I can kill him faster. And I'll push the game as fast as I can by knowing what the game will do. Now, it doesn't always do what I want it to do because I'm not always in the right place, but it's amazing how fast you can push that game. We played doubles marathon, playing up in the top left and up in the top right, and let everything stream up to us and kill them all as they were bouncing off the ceiling. And we played that way for 15 hours. It was nobody, I've never seen anybody do it. That was Steve Sanders and I. He was the first captain of the U.S. national video game team. And it's been really interesting to see what all that game will do. And you are
Well,
right.
and again, you got to give kudos to the development team and to Futz in particular, because there are a lot of ways you could not pay attention to subtleties of the algorithm and development, the game control development, and have the game really fall flat on its face.
It
And
never does.
clearly enough was done with the programming by Bill so that the game never fell flat on its face. It never got stuck where it was just in some weird place, or where you could cheat the game. You had to keep playing, or
Yeah. You either played or you died.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And,
Right.
and if you wanted to take a break, you better pee really fast. That's all I gotta say. Pee fast. John, it's a pleasure, sir. And I'll try to catch you in July and let you say to hello to whoever's there. I do understand that the former head of Google Games will be in attendance.
Well, it'll be very interesting. And like I say, if I wouldn't have had these long stage plans to be on the road during that period, I would definitely be finding myself an honor to be a part of your event there. So best of luck to you, and say hi to all the fellow Joust developers. And
we'll play your video here at the event, and I'll tell everybody that you said hi. And then at the RSVP dinner, we'll give you a call if you're available. I'll let you say hi to everybody. If not, then you have a safe trip, sir.
well, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. And again, best of luck with your event, and happy jousting.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.